Yo, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of the world, I am George Massey here today to talk about Stranger Things and why it's so good. It's already becoming widely accepted, acknowledged, celebrated that this Netflix show Stranger Things is great. But why is it so great? Well, a few reasons. Number one is the directors, the Duffer brothers, have very clear, prominent influences. And just like the old saying that good parents make good children, or it takes a village to raise a child, evidently the films and comic books that the Duffer brothers who created Stranger Things, what they grew up on was a very, very good influence. The kids in this show are like Stand By Me. The vibe of this show is almost like X-Files. The teenagers in this show are like from a John Hughes movie. The writing, the style, the pace is like an 80s Stephen King novel. Even the font of Stranger Things is like a Stephen King font on one of his 80s books. John Carpenter's The Thing is very obviously a clear influence. You can even see the poster for the movie The Thing in the basement where the kids hang out. And the last very obvious influence is Akira. It's undeniable some of the influence that Akira has had on this, especially with the character 11 and the kind of barcode tattoo that she has on her arm, much like the young children have in Akira, who have escaped from the government, just like 11 in Stranger Things has escaped from the government. Very obvious influences, parallels, almost homages. So, factor number one, the directors, the creators of the show have great influences. Even towards the end of Stranger Things, there are Akira type moments that seem to be out of the comic book. And just to sidetrack a little bit, it's so good to see people who are actually influenced instead of just remaking something. Everything nowadays is just remade. They remade the Ghostbusters, they rebooted Star Wars. It's supposed to be a sequel, but it is a soft reboot. We all kind of know that. RoboCop's been remade, Total Recall's been remade, and it's just like, why do you have to remake everything? Why don't you just get inspired, get influenced, take aspects of the things that you love, put them into your own work and make it your own? That's what people do. That's what we've always done. Nothing is ever completely and totally original. It's not possible. The point is we don't need remakes. It's okay to copy. It's okay to imitate, so long as you inject your own perceptions of life. You put your own feelings into it. Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to go off on that. The other reason why it's so good, the font, the typeface, the intro credits. If you've seen my other video, Movie Posters in the Rental Store, I spent about 5 minutes just talking about the decline and the degradation of font in modern films and on film posters. And I was thrilled, I was elated, I was excited, I was on a euphoric plane watching the intro credits of Stranger Things, because I was like, oh my god, finally two guys who get it, who acknowledge how awesome and amazing just the font of movies used to be. And it's shot on film amazingly, just the way you see those words weaving in and out, a little bit almost like Terminator or even Point Break. It's so beautifully done. I look at that and think, I don't know how they did that. It doesn't look like CGI, which is the same feeling I used to feel as a kid. Now, the cinematography of the show is so good, it's so beautiful, and unlike so many modern TV shows and modern movies, it's a flowing camera movement. It's precise, it's meticulous. It isn't like, say, 24, which is great, but 24, the camera's always shaking. And Breaking Bad, the camera's always shaking. It's always shoulder cams. And the way they do that stuff, I don't really like it. I like it in 24, I don't like it in anything else. Because what happens is, the cameramen will shoot a scene from 4 or 5 different angles. Okay, and sometimes you'll have 4 or 5 different cameras on a set all at the same time, and then you just cut it together. And what you get is this very shaky, clunky, imprecise footage. Stranger Things is authentic to its influences, because when you had to shoot on film. Film was so expensive, you wouldn't want to shoot from 5 different angles. It's too much money, it's too difficult when it comes to the editing room and you're cutting like this, so you storyboard it, you plan it, you get it right.
It's standard now to, at the very least, have 2 cameras, if not 3, if not 4, if not 5, if not 6. I don't want that. I have 1 camera on the set, and the only shot we're shooting is the shot I'm framing. I frame the shot.
So that's another thing about Stranger Things. Pay attention to the camera. Watch how it flows. It kind of floats, it moves, it's in places where the directors have said, this is where I want it to be, this is where I want it to go. No random scatty shaking just to kind of build some energy. Oh, let's build some tension in the scene by shaking the camera. No, it's precise, it's beautiful. In a similar way to how the X-Files used to be precise and beautiful and dark, but with lovely colours and colouring. People are likening this already to the kind of 80s throwback movie Super 8, and I saw Super 8 in the cinema because of the poster, which was an authentic 80s poster, and I was like, oh, that is great, I want to see that. And the thing with Super 8 is it was quite good, but it kind of felt like a modern film trying to be an 80s film. And it lacked things like, it didn't have an 80s theme tune, it developed these really good characters in the beginning, and then it kind of strayed away from them. The overall story of the town took precedence, the story of the boy and the girl took precedence, and the kind of fun interaction of the characters was kind of missing, as opposed to in the 80s where it would be like the characters are the focal point and the story is happening around them. Star Wars, for example, is a good example of this, whereby in the original trilogy, the characters are the focal point and the galaxy and the universe is all happening around them and affecting them. But in the later Star Wars, episodes 1, 2 and 3, it's like the characters are secondary to the big world plot, and that's a mistake and it's a problem, and there was a little bit of that in Super 8. So it felt like it was something modern imitating something old and not kind of getting the heart of what made the older stuff actually good. Stranger Things doesn't do that. Stranger Things gets it, and one of the reasons why it gets it so well is because it doesn't parody, it doesn't spoof. It's not a bunch of people going, oh yeah, do you remember how they used to have synthesizers in the 80s? Ha ha, that was so cheesy. It's like, no, it wasn't cheesy. It was amazing. It worked. It made you feel something, especially when you're young. When I heard those synthesizers as a child, it made me think about, you know, the stars and space, and it was this interesting blend of instruments and technology, because technology and synthesizers were becoming fused with instruments, as opposed to now where you'll get a lot of people who can't even play instruments and have no musical training, who are beginning their kind of musical journey with the computer, with the synthesizer. Whereas back then it was they learned to play an instrument, then they got the synthesizer. And that's kind of what Stranger Things feels like. It's very, very musical, and that's brilliant. So overall, because I don't want to make this video too long, Stranger Things is brilliant because it takes itself seriously. It's not spoofing and parodying things from the 80s. It's irritating, I find, when modern things spoof and parody and make fun of. It's so common nowadays that everything is a joke, everything is farcical. You can't watch a horror movie without somebody going, oh shit, right before they die, and the whole audience laughs because they've released the tension. I find that really irritating. One of the things that was successful about 80s movies, 80s sci-fi, 80s horror, is that they took themselves seriously. A movie like Child's Play would not work if it didn't take itself seriously. It's a tiny little doll running around killing people. How can a doll push a woman out of a, you know, the top floor of a building? It's ridiculous. It is funny when you think of it outside of the frame, let's say. When you come out of the cinema and you kind of like think, hey, wait a minute, that was stupid. Then you can kind of laugh at it. But whilst you're watching it, it takes itself so seriously that you can't help but take it seriously. That's the illusion, that's the magic trick of film. If it believes in itself, you are likely to believe in it too. And there's far too much kind of parodying and jibing and jesting in films nowadays, especially alluding to films from that era. So one of its main strengths is that it's a very real world with very real characters, with a very unreal, metaphysical, paranormal series of activities happening to these very real characters. Anyway, I don't want to ramble on and on and on. But the main thing is these Duffer brothers who created it, wrote a lot of it, directed most of it, evidently have very strong influences, they're very passionate about it, and they don't joke about it. They don't make fun and go, oh, look at how things were in the 80s. There's incredible precision and care and love for what they do. It's evident from the font to the finished product. Anyway, it's awesome. It's great. I'm gonna go now. See ya.